You suddenly don't have a phone, you don't have a computer, you don't have access to your bank account, you cannot use money, your coffee machine doesn't work. This is called a blackout. That's not sci-fi, it's not from Star Wars, it's reality. It happened in Spain last summer and it lasted for 8 hours. Nothing worked. My question is to you, will this happen again in the European Union? This is what we're going to dive into today. Welcome to What's Up.
Yeah, it was crazy. And suddenly, lights out.
Panicking quite a lot.
So what actually happened down there in Spain last summer? I am now joined by Bo Normark, welcome, and also Alex Yankel.
Thank you.
Could I ask, what actually happened in Spain last summer? Do we know that?
First of all, it was a complex situation, and first thing I would say, it was not the lack of generation, almost the opposite, and it was a combination of voltage control failures and inertia problems, and also probably wrong protection settings. My reference is actually 2019. Something very, very similar happened in UK, where they had a very similar...
Also with the blackout?
Also with the blackout, and the sequence of events was quite similar, and it seems to be. I will come back to what mitigation they have done in the UK.
So people saying that it was maybe a lack of production, that's not true.
That would not be correct. I would say it was certainly more a lack of control or like resources to actually handle the voltage spike that happened and stop the cascading effects of that. But so it was not a lack of power production.
Will this happen again in a European country? Could it happen in Sweden as well?
Of course it could happen. I would never say it wouldn't happen, but I think it's unlikely because it's a learning process. And I would have actually say if Spain would have learned from UK, it wouldn't have happened in Spain. I mean, so drastic because the countermeasure they have made in UK is to install a lot of battery systems. And the battery systems are also then programmed to take care of the voltage control, take care of the lack of inertia, and that's why in UK have the highest penetration of I would say grid scale batteries in Europe, and you will see that in Spain. I'm sure.
Yes, I'm quite sure that this blackout was a learning experience. For Spain, it's obviously a very critical failure, and they will take every step in mitigation to make sure it doesn't happen again. And I think in Sweden we also have, it's even more unlikely. I agree with you, Bo, you should never say never, but we have more hydropower, more nuclear power in the case for stabilization of the grid, and I think that is part of it, but also we have very developed safety measures, so we have a good ground to stand on.
I heard something about batteries before, but before we dive into that, I actually brought an interview. So a few weeks ago I spoke to Nicholas online. He lived in Madrid last summer. So let's see what it was from the front row side to experience this blackout.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was working from home, like working remotely, and suddenly lights out, like from nowhere. Because also the cell phone died like in minutes.
The connection on your phone also went off, right?
Yeah, like no signal at all. We thought, okay, it could be some like a blown fuse on our apartment. So I went to check the box, and it was all good. Okay, maybe it's like the building, So we went outside with my girlfriend and we started to see all the neighbors going down.
So when did you notice that this is not only your flat?
A couple of minutes later, after all the cell phones went down, we start to notice, okay, it's not regular, like it's not a normal thing. This seems huge, And
Did you experience anyone in the streets or next to you or wherever it could be that were panicking quite a lot?
yeah, we saw some like people running from in the street, like not knowing what to do and so on. Mostly were like the younger ones, like start to panicking.
Mm.
The older ones were like, okay, let's grab a beer and have some fun.
So we could actually translate it to roughly an entire working day without power, right?
Yeah, literally it was like 8 hours of no power and no cell phone service.
From a 1 to 10 scale, where 1 is I don't even think about it, I take it maybe a little bit for granted, power is just a part of my life, and then you can have a 10 where you're very much aware that electricity is not something as natural as oxygen. Do you look at electricity coming from your power plugs as a way more complex thing than before the summer of 2025?
I mean, if I had to scale it, it would be like 9.5, you know, like top of the list. We realized so much on energy, like from eating, showering, going to the bathroom. It's everywhere.
Would you be able to live your 2026 life going forward without electricity?
No, I don't think I can. I don't want to.
That was Nicholas.
Yeah.
So, real life example of what it is to be in an 8-hour lasting blackout. Actually, do you have any thoughts on that?
One immediate thought, this is a typical reaction from a city person. Because people living on the countryside, like in Sweden this winter, we had people without electricity for 2 weeks. And
2 weeks.
I saw an interview with a guy said after 2 weeks he said, well, he said a little rough, but we managed. Because
He also said just sat down to grab a beer, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
I think that was fun for like the Spanish case, that a lot of people actually just, oh well, I guess we'll go grab a beer.
Yeah,
We'll
let's
do
have
this.
some fun.
I don't think the reaction would be the same in Sweden.
Probably not.
No, but you see also that we have other experience, like in 20 years ago, Italy was blacked out. And there also you see a very different reaction. So I would say also that probably shouldn't happen, but next time it happened, they will react in a different way.
Probably, yeah.
Because, wow, we survived.
Yeah. From my point of view, if I were in a blackout, I would realize how much I depend on electricity every day, even for my car, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you, Bo, why is it that you believe so much in electricity, in electrifying the society?
I've been preaching this for basically all my professional life. First I would say efficiency, because everything becomes more efficient when you electrify it, and you can see it. My favorite example is lighting. I mean, if you compare a modern LED light and a candle, the LED light 1,000 times more efficient.
So speaking of, this could be comfortable. Speaking of energy, if you have it running for 1 hour, and the candlelight running for 1 hour,
with the same energy, and we know an electric car is 3 to 5 times more efficient than a fossil car, and it goes on and on and on. So efficiency is the first one. Then of course next layer we added was CO2 emissions. Because you can build emission-free electricity. So that was the second argument, efficiency, then carbon dioxide. And the new one is actually resilience. Because now we need to realize that we need to create our own energy. Because like Europe is today importing like 70% of the energy comes from outside. We have the capacity to generate, not all, but the big chunk of all energy in forms of electricity inside Europe. So it's about energy resilience, and independence, I would say. So that is a new kid in the block, and all of them points in the same direction towards increased electrification.
So one real practical question. Let's say we have 2 ferries.
Yeah.
One runs on petrol.
Yeah.
One runs only on electricity.
Yeah.
You would then say to me that the electric version is more efficient.
It's more efficient, yeah.
For the same distance, for instance.
For same distance, because give you it's very easy calculation. 1 liter of diesel is 10 kilowatt hours. And if you put it, look how many liters of diesel, and that's very simple.
Yeah, okay.
You don't lose a lot of energy.
No, that's the point.
No, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So, what if I then ask you, Alex, from a more political side of it? I mean, should we be more resilient in Sweden and in the European Union? Is that even a topic?
If we should be more resilient, of course we should be more resilient. I think that's a mega trend right now in politics. A lot of different political areas has to take resilience into consideration, and there are a lot of political proposals relating to resilience in Sweden and in Europe in general. And I think what Bo said about energy independence is a very alive topic, and also having a more, for example, a more decentralized electrical system.
What does that mean, though, practically? Decentralized system.
A decentralized system. Yeah. Well, so if you take a building, you can equip it with, for example, solar and batteries, and make it able to run off-grid. And if you have these buildings spread out that can actually run off-grid, either for some capacity or for a lot of capacity, or I mean either 24/7 or some hours of the day, then you still have a huge advantage in resilience compared to if you're entirely dependent on a grid connection. Because grids are unfortunately quite vulnerable in a crisis situation. And also we have centralized electricity production is also quite vulnerable from that perspective. So I think it's a very natural part when you speak both about solar, wind, batteries, things that are easy to place around the country and local electricity production.
So from my low practical level of understanding, why is this not happening?
Right now?
Yeah.
Well, it's because I think you could speak of a general trend that you don't act before the crisis is actually here.
Which could be a human thing, maybe.
Yeah, but of course. But I think we are starting to act now because the security situation in Europe is more serious, and there are a lot of discussions about this topic in both the EU and also a lot in Sweden, I would say.
But I would like to bring in why it's not happening, because there is something called an economy of scale.
Yeah.
Which means that if you build a bigger unit, a bigger wind turbine, a bigger nuclear power plant, everything bigger, cost comes down. That's one way to create low cost. The other way is to produce many, and I mean many means very many. Like solar panels, why have become inexpensive? Because we have produced so bloody big numbers. Same with the batteries now. And for me now it's quite interesting, because I used to say also that the grids is fantastic because then you can share resources, and that's fine. But there are some limitations in grids. It takes a long time to build, for instance, and grid also doesn't. It's also same thing with grids. Bigger is cheaper per unit.
Yeah.
So that's why I started also to be more interested in local, like PV panels and batteries, because they don't scale so much. A small unit is not so much more expensive per kilowatt than a big one. Battery, same thing. I would say, the cheapest battery you can buy is a power bank. Cheapest per kilowatt.
Yes.
It is. So it does. So we have completely new opportunities, because with technologies like batteries and solar that does not scale, we can choose. We can make smaller, we can make big, and we can make any combination. So it's a freedom of compared to technology where you need to scale to give economy.
Okay.
And also, just to add, I would like to say another reason why it's not happening. It's like, how do we handle solar and batteries in the electricity system? What kind of systems have we set up for flexibility, for example, to actually handle electricity and make sure that the economic benefit of these assets in the electricity system is properly rewarded? I think this is still quite underdeveloped in Sweden and a lot of Europe. And I mean, there's a lot of work going on with it, but when this is in place and more established, I think we'll see a big expansion when we can properly reward.
Yeah, so basic motivation for doing it. Is that what you mean?
And this also applies to wind, but it's a lot of economics involved.
But that could be my next question. Could also, because you speak about, both of you, that we could decentralize, for instance, with batteries. Batteries also on a residential level.
Yeah.
Is it also a factor to make the customer motivated to invest in this? Is that also something that plays a role?
It's a good example because, I mean, take this example of the home battery, because there you have multiple things you can do with that. You can do things for your own, for instance, increase domestic use of PV panel, but you can also today sell services to the grid, to the main power system, and that is another income. And that is a way where you can show, if you open the market to these small actors, you can increase the benefits for them. But and that is happening now, and this is one of the reasons there was no market before, but now there is. And I always say that you can always aggregate upwards, you cannot aggregate downwards. So in a way, anything you can aggregate at the end of the day is, for me, a winner.
And we have examples of this massive expansion once you open up the market. I mean, you had the tax deduction for green energy, where you can get 50% of the installation cost for your battery. 55,000 people used it in 2024. 75,000 people used it.
Regular people activated that benefit.
Yes, regular people.
Okay.
Homeowners, basically.
Yeah.
So it's 55,000 people in 2024, 75,000 people, preliminary statistics, but in 2025. So the interest is gigantic.
Also, we talk about electrification and distribution, because we have a fantastic example in Sweden. Sweden used to have we heated our homes with oil. Then we had our oil crisis in the mid 1970s, and people said, look, we have to get out of the oil dependence. So people started including direct electric heating. We heated our homes with direct electric heating, which was fine because we got out of the oil, but we used a lot of electricity. Second phase in this was that we started using heat pumps instead of direct. So we cut the electricity use by, down to 25%, 1/4.
Whoa.
And all of at the end of the day, we have electrified the whole heating system in a very efficient way, and the homeowner have made the investment. So they have made the investment in negative use.
So it makes sense, all of this.
Yeah.
But speaking of, before we spoke about resilience, I know, Bo, that you are looking quite a lot on what they do in China. Can you put some words on that?
Well, China is the country that has decided to get energy independence by electrification. So if you look at the share of energy that is delivered in the society by electricity, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, in China it was 5%, in Sweden it was 30%, because then we had just put
20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
Today, Sweden is still 30%, China is 35%.
Really?
They are going up, and they have a plan. They have a plan, and because they want to get out of the import of energy and produce domestic energy, and they have exactly this plan and use electricity. So, but by the end of the day, electricity will not be 100%, but maybe they use 60% of what will come from electricity. That is produced domestic inside China.
And the result will be a more efficient economy.
Absolutely, absolutely.
On the long run, right?
On the long run, yeah.
But I mean, this proves very low practically that we should speed up.
Of course.
Of course.
China is building the lowest cost production system in the world.
Yeah.
And I think acceleration of this development is like a matter of international competitiveness and also national security, basically.
Speaking of that, I have a screenshot that I want to show you.
Yeah.
You can see it on the screen in a minute. It is from a source called Ember, and I'm not going to read the article itself, but just glance at the top, at the headline. If we are, can you put some words on why it makes sense, also speaking of possibly resilience, to do this concept of interconnection? Is that a stupid idea or a good idea?
It's a very good idea, I would say, because basically what are you doing? You are adding more resources that can efficiently participate in the same system and help each other out and help with balancing, help with the kind of problems they had in Spain. Better connection expands the market for electricity producers. I think there are only benefits.
What about the argument that sometimes we produce too much electricity and that is not good?
No, but I used to live on selling interconnections, of course I think it's a good idea. No, but I think you share resources. And that's the good news. However, I mean, you should also, one thing that we have become increasingly aware, and that was also a part of the Spanish Blackout, there was an interconnector to Spain that had not the proper protection setting. So this interconnection acted wrong and actually worsened the situation. So of course we should have interconnections, but we need to also make sure that they are programmed in the correct way. And that's why I also said that interconnection is one solution, storage is another solution, and they compete to some extent. And now what we see that the cost for batteries is going down, the cost of interconnection is maybe more stable. So I would say the idea of storage is gaining in competition. But of course I share the view for them that we are behind in interconnections. There I'm a little worried now because there is a tendency that people start to be nationalistic. We hear that in Sweden.
With energy.
Oh yeah, this is our electricity. Don't touch it.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the arguments against connections are very political in nature. That you want to keep the electricity for Swedes first, for example.
Alex, can you just look practically? What could be an example where an interconnection concept would be beneficial?
Sorry,
give me an example of where the concept of interconnection cables would be beneficial.
Sure. I mean, we could have, for example, more connections moving north to south to Sweden. This would average out the prices more in the entire of the country, because now we have very low prices in the north, since we have a lot of electricity production there, and not enough capacity to transport all of it down to the south, where it's mostly needed. Because you have 8 million people living in the southern areas of Sweden, 1 million in the north.
Yeah, of course.
So that's a very practical example, and we could have basically lower prices in the south of Sweden, higher competitiveness down there. Of course, it's a trade-off.
I have also an example of how this practically works, because just a few weeks ago, the biggest nuclear reactor in Finland, Olkiluoto, the new one, tripped and was disconnected. So within seconds, Finland was short of power. Okay. And Finland was at that time exporting to Estonia. What happened was that immediately Finland got power from interconnection from Sweden. Sweden also started sending to Lithuania, and the Lithuanians ended up Estonia that sent back to Finland. So Finland got actually support from Sweden from two ways, both from Estonia over it and from Sweden. And without this system, they would have to have their own backup resources, and of course that would be extremely expensive. And same thing could happen actually some years back in Sweden, where we have major failures in Forsmark, and then we got from Finland. So it's a wonderful way to share reserves.
To finalize this, is it wrong? Is it correct to say that this is some kind of ecosystem that both storage, interconnection, solar, wind will work together?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
So that's what we're actually aiming for.
Exactly.
That is the aim.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Bo, for joining me. And have a great Elmia Solar. I know that you're going to the Elmia Solar stage in a minute, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.